Gesundheit. What a way to start. So, please do go to openprocessing.org, make your own account, join the class at this URL using this code. I am going to bring up the assignment that I emailed you guys last week, and I would recommend you all do the same. Doop, doop, doop. Cool. All right, so I said to create a 1000 by 1000 pixel RGB document. We are going to have this today. So any numbers that you grab, any position numbers you grab from your document, which will, that sentence will make sense in a moment, you should cut in half. Using no more than 10 basic shapes, create an abstract composition. Use only triangles, rectangles, and ellipses. Explore creative ways to use the stroke and fill. Any gradient should have no more than 2 colors, and you may repeat one of your shapes to create a pattern. So I recommend using a color picker such as color.adobe.com to establish an intentional palette. So I'm going to start today's, in case anybody did not do this, just by demonstrating the sort of thing that I want. I'm going to create a very silly little abstract, geometric abstraction of 2 people. Doop, doop, doop. While this is loading, I'm gonna go to a color picker. So I'm gonna go to color.adobe.com. I'm gonna use just 3 colors. So I'm gonna maybe grab a triad of colors. And I know that I want red in my composition. So I'm gonna grab this red and I'm gonna find a red that I really like.
What size document again? I'm sorry.
1000 by 1000. Yeah, I think I can work with this palette. I like that palette. Cool. So what's important to me are these numbers down here. That's what I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to go to adobe.com, I'm going to go to Illustrator. I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to do web. I'm going to make it 1000. Oop, that's not 1000. 1000 by 1000 pixels. RGB color. Great. Cool. So this is my artboard. When we go to processing, you can think of this as a canvas. It will be called canvas in processing.
What if we didn't do it on a web? What if we did it on a...
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So long you'll be able to do it however you did it. Okay. Just I knew that the web presets would work for this assignment. That's all that matters. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a neutral background. And I'm going to go back to my color picker. I want my background, let's try this one. That's 178, 114, 120. So, doop doop. I'm just going to create a rectangle. It's going to be 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels. Okay. I'm going to make it have no stroke, and its fill will be those numbers. So 178, 114, 120. 178, 114, 120. There we go. That's the same red that I had in the color picker. And one of the primary reasons we're doing this sort of thing are to really drill home those RGB channels and how computers represent raster and vector graphics and that sort of thing. So anyway, RGB, 178 red, 114 green, 120 blue. Okay, cool. There's my background. I'm gonna pop this right in place and I'm gonna lock it. I'm gonna create a new layer. I'm gonna call this just for my own understanding background. Now I want 2 people. I'm gonna again look at my color picker. I'm gonna make 1 blue and 1 yellow. So I want 2 long rectangles. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. I'm going to, rectangle tool, yep. Oh, I want it to be on the new layer. Boop. And nobody needs to be following me here. You should be creating your own original things, or you really should have had done already. I'm just doing this to demonstrate and to really mirror what we're about to do into this. So these are going to be 500, no, these are going to be 100 wide and 600 tall. So, boop, yeah, that looks about right. Cool. And I want my color to be yellow. 255, 250, 89. 255, 280, 59. Was I right on 59? No, it was 89. Pardon?
250 and 89.
I was wrong all over the place. Thank you very much. There we go. Boop. There we go. Okay. There we go. I got one rectangle. I'm going to just replace it here. I'm going to duplicate it. Cool. And I am going to go back to my color picker. 112, 173, 204. 112, 173, 204. I'm having a really hard time remembering these numbers today. 173, 204. Cool. Great. And then I'm going to create 2 more. This middle color. So I want an ellipse and a triangle. I'm going to make the triangle the red. So in Illustrator, there's no triangle tool, there's a polygon tool, so I'm going to click once, and then I can choose how many sides. 3-side polygon has a triangle. I'm not going to dictate a size, I'm going to stretch it out. Pardon?
We didn't know how to do that.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Well, then let me go slower through that. So if you're trying to make a triangle as a polygon.
I took a star and got rid of a whole bunch of sides.
That's a very creative way to do it. So the polygon tool can create a polygon of any number of sides. So if you don't see it in one of the ellipse or rectangle, such as a triangle or pentagon or hexagon, not hexagram, you can grab the polygon tool, and if you just click and drag, it will do whatever the preset, the last thing you did with it is. If you just click with any of the shape tools, you can put in your properties. So I'm making it 3-sided polygon is a triangle. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Could you make a square and like flip it to make it look like 2 triangles and make it look like if you like put it in a certain place where there's like a shape over the top to make it look like there's 2 triangles, but it really isn't?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Because that's what I did
Yeah,
before.
whatever you want to do is just fine. I'm going to make this triangle the red I have, which is 255, 37, 57. 255. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Thank you so much. 37, 57. Cool. Great. And this is going to be the man or lady's little beating heart. I'm going to make it a little off kilter. Not going to hold shift while I drag it. I'm going to just, ooh, that looks like a spear. Let's go something more like that. I don't like this. That works for me. No, it doesn't. Really doesn't. Maybe if I move it over to him. Yeah, it'll be just like a little sash. And then I'm going to give the yellow person a black circular one. Little story about unrequited love here. Boom. And I'm gonna, yeah, right in the middle. Cool. Triangular peg, round hole, color mismatch, passion, no passion, that sort of thing. And let's swap these people. There, I'm totally happy with this beautiful work of art that I'm about to go sell on the market for millions of dollars. Anyway, so now I have something basic that I can recreate in processing. which is the goal of today and Wednesday. So I am going to go over to open processing. I'm going to zoom out of this because I made it real big so everyone can see that number. If you go to your own account, if you go up here to this circle, that's how you access the different areas. This double circle up there. It's not exactly intuitive. Then you can go to your My Sketches, and you can create a new sketch. And you get this, which we should have seen a little bit of a week and a half ago, but I don't expect anyone to remember at this point. Who here can tell me what a function is? What's that? Yeah, it's a set of instructions. A whole program is just a list of instructions. Functions are like little mini lists of instructions. Just to kind of review a little bit, the P5 libraries are built to attach lists of functions already written to JavaScript programming language, so that instead of having to write 10 lines of code to draw a triangle, you can just write triangle with these coordinates. And that will reference the P5 library and create a triangle based on a function that you'll never see. It makes your life a lot easier. This openprocessing.org is just an easier way of creating P5 sketches than what we tried to do a couple weeks ago in class. Another few key concepts. Variable is an empty box into which you store data. So a coordinate can be a variable. Color can be a color information. The RGB channel information, you can designate that to a variable. Anything that you want to reuse multiple times, you probably just want to put it into a variable box so that you can always reference that rather than rewrite it every time. And that lets you also do more dynamic interactive things, which we are just going to touch on. At the moment, we're really only drawing. So the P5 library has two functions built into every program: the setup function and the draw function. The setup function is called once before the program ever runs. So it's how you establish things you're never going to do again. Things like the size of the screen or the color of the background. You can just do once, and it happens, and it never happens again. And then draw happens every single frame. That becomes important if you're generating something every single frame. Whatever you're generating will appear on top of whatever was generated last. Same thing with your list of instructions. Whatever you tell it to draw first will be drawn first. And then whatever you tell it to draw next will be drawn on top of that. So here we have, it creates a canvas, a space to work, an artboard, just like Illustrator, at the window width and the window height. So right now it's scaling to our browser window. And the background is 100. Whenever you have a single number listed as color data, which I know this is without just off the top of my head, but I wouldn't expect you to, a single number as color data reads as a grayscale, black to white. 0 to 255, 0 is black, white is 255. If you only include one number, it will be black to white. So I know that 100, being about the middle of 0 to 255, is going to be a nice middle gray. Not very dark, not very bright. So right now, I'm expecting it to draw a black background, a gray background onto my screen. Then, every frame, it's going to draw an ellipse. Again, we're going to look up how to see what those numbers mean, but I know off the top of my head that it's an x-coordinate, a y-coordinate, a width, and a height. So, the way that the canvas does the Cartesian coordinate plane is x0, y0 is the top left of the screen. So just like any two-dimensional grid here, the x is horizontal and the y is vertical. So if 0, 0 is the top left, then y increases down and x increases across. So let's pretend this is do I have a square? I do not have a square. Let's say that this is our 1000 by 1000 pixel document. 0, 0 is here. 1,000, 1,000 is down here. 0 to 1,000, 0 to 1,000 when placing things. Make sense, everyone? Great. So if I wanted to put something smack dab in the middle, it would be 500, 500 as its position coordinate. The width and height are then drawn from the top left corner in a rectangle. I think the ellipse might draw from the center, but we'll find out in a moment. But normally, when drawing in P5 or processing environments, whatever object is drawn from the top corner. We have the anchor points we may have talked about in Illustrator and Photoshop, and those we can adjust to be anywhere on the screen. The anchor point is always the top left. So everything rotates from the top left. Everything is drawn from the top left unless you tell it to do otherwise. Which you can do, but we probably won't be for this assignment. Unless you really have a need to. So, based on that information, I know that the x-coordinate is wherever my mouse is. The y-coordinate is also taken from wherever my mouse is. And then this circle will have a width of 20 and a height of 20. That means that, so once, just once, it's going to draw a gray background. And then every single frame, it's going to draw a circle wherever my mouse is that's 20 pixels tall and wide. Let's see if that holds true. I hit play, and the sample sketch it gives me, every frame, it's drawing a circle. And because it's drawing every frame, it's always drawing on top of the circles that came before it. We'll notice that no color data was given to this circle, but it defaults to having a black stroke and a white fill. You can see the black stroke here. If I were to do something like put no stroke above the ellipse, no stroke, then all the little, oh, no stroke is not defined. I did something wrong. I think I did my camel case wrong. I think, and I'll show you how to look up this information in a second. But I believe, yep, so now there's no stroke and the circles bleed together. And that looks very much like a Photoshop brush. Make sense to everyone? Cool. So, if I wanted to color it, I would give it a fill. So let's do fill. Somebody pick a color for the fill.
Green.
Green. I heard green first, I'm sorry. So, on our RGB channels, if I just put one number here, like 100, it would be a nice neutral gray. Let's see that. You can't see the circle because it's the same color as the background. It is drawing a circle every frame, and we can see that more clearly if we take out this no stroke. And here I'll show you the comment. If you put 2 dashes like that, it comments out the code, which means that it's still there for your purposes, but the computer doesn't see it, doesn't follow that instruction. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. But now I have the fill is the same as my background, but the stroke is black so we can see the circles. Everyone following so far?
Yes.
Great. So, has anyone ever done anything like this before? Jericho has? You have a little bit? Pardon?
It was a while back.
Cool. Cool. So, this is how we designate, and let's just give it a, blue was the second color I heard, so let's give it a blue stroke and a green fill. So, if you type more than one number, if you type 3 numbers, you will get RGB values. And if you type 4 numbers, you'll get RGBA values. That A is the alpha channel, the transparency. That goes 0 to 100, I think. We'll need to double check that in a second. So if you wanted it to be a slightly opaque, a slightly transparent circle, you'd put your 3 color informations and then 1 alpha information. So my stroke, if I wanted a blue stroke, RGB, that would be 0, 0, 255. That'd be completely blue with no red and green. And if I wanted a green fill, it would be 0, 255, 0. And then you don't need semicolons in JavaScript, but it's useful to just get in the habit of doing that for any other programming language you might ever use. Now I expect to see, oh, I did something wrong. Stroke is not defined. So stroke can't have a capital S. There we go. Now we get exactly what I was expecting. Great. Now, so any shape that I want to draw, I'm going to change the mouse S and mouse Y, so it's only drawing at one coordinate instead of chasing my mouse around. I'm just going to make that 250 by 250, so now I expect it to draw apart from the top and bottom, 250 pixels into it and 250 pixels down. Boop, just draws one. Any shape I want to draw, you will inherit whatever color information comes before it. So right now, if I draw another ellipse at, let's say, I'm just going to copy and paste this one, Command C, and paste, and then move it over 50 pixels, move it over 50 pixels and down 50 pixels. Now I'll draw two circles, one on top of another. The second one is drawn on top, and it inherits the same color information as the shape that was drawn before it. If I wanted to change this color information, I could just copy and paste this information and boop it there. And then let's make a change. Boop. Make sense to everyone? Great. So now we are challenged with recreating our Illustrator file to the best of our ability in this environment. If you have a very complicated Illustrator file, I really mean just to the best of your ability. I am not going to be grading based on mere duplication because I was expecting people to kind of go a little overboard. Gradients, for example, are incredibly challenging as a beginner in processing. You need to do some math for those. So if you have a gradient in it, you probably aren't going to have a gradient in your processing image. If you are able to figure out gradients, more power to you. That's amazing. And we'll really get you to think about what's actually happening here. So I certainly challenge you to do that, but certainly don't require it. Does that make sense, everyone? Sound fair? If you have a very complicated thing, or repeating patterns, there are very interesting ways to tell the computer to draw those. And I'm hoping that this will bring out those challenges in ways that we can share with each other. But for the beginning and for this class period, I'm not going to go into those. We're just drawing the basics once. Make sense? Yeah?
Can I ask a question just to make sure I'm understanding the numbers that you put in for the stroke and fill?
Yeah.
So the 0, 0, 255 is blue.
Yeah.
And the 0, 255, 0 is green. If you put the 255 first, would that be red?
It would.
Okay.
Stroke R, G, B.
Okay.
So anytime you see something, and I'll just type out the no stroke function. Anytime you see something like this, where I'm going to make this bigger too. Where it's no stroke parentheses semicolon. That is calling a function that is pre-written into the P5 library. You could do something very similar. You can create your own function. You can name a function monkey dance. And then in the function you can say make monkey dance, whatever, whatever list of things you want to do, whatever set of instructions. And then back up here in your draw section, every frame you can call monkey dance. So you can write your own sets of instructions and call them from within the draw function. And anytime you haven't done that, but see these parentheses, you're calling a function that's pre-written for you in the P5 library. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody need me to go over that again or say it slower? Cool. So no stroke, for example, is calling a function that you aren't seeing, we could find it in the P5 library if we really wanted to, that's giving the JavaScript instruction list for how to make the next shape not have a stroke. The fill is calling a function pre-written for us in the P5 library to designate the RGB channels. And these numbers are what we would call arguments. When we write our own variable, when we write monkey dance, we could give it like the color of the fur, we could make a variable, or how fast he dances could be a variable, and we could put those in as arguments. We always know that we're going to need these 3 bits of information to pump through our little function, our little set of instructions. And so those are called arguments. So here we're passing these 3 arguments through the fill function, the fill set of instructions, which is going to spit out color information onto our screen. We don't need to know that or how it works or see that set of instructions. We just need to understand that those arguments correlate to our red, green, and blue color channels, and always in that order. Does that make sense? Cool. So let's say I didn't know how to do that. I would go to my reference here, and I would type fill. How do I get a fill? Okay, color, fill. I click on that, and it takes me to this web page. Cool. It gives me a bunch of examples of it being used. That's pretty nice. Gives me a short description of what it's doing, and then it shows me those arguments, value 1, value 2, value 3 in the alpha channel. And then it tells me what I expect to put into each of those. Number V1 is the red or hue relevant to the current color range, because you can change the way that it reads colors. By default, it reads it as RGB, but you can do a few other schemes. Pardon?
Can you do CYMK?
I don't believe you could, because this is kind of always based on web space colors, but you can do hue, saturation, brightness, or hex CSS, which is like a web standard. Anytime you see something that looks like hashtag FFF, that's white and hex color, or I guess that's an abbreviated hex color. It's actually 6 Fs, but many web browsers can now read 3 Fs because you type that all the time. So we will probably not be working directly with hex colors, but you should know they exist. And let's look at some examples. Yeah, so these are all hex colors. Anyway, that is just another way of showing color information. But because this is all a web-based platform, I don't believe there is an easy way to go into CMYK color modes. I should Google that though. I'm now going to start the process of building my abstract geometric thing. So the first thing is I have a background. So I've already drawn this. I no longer have the Color Adobe thing up. But I can still click on any given object, boop, and then double click and get that information right here. So I'm selecting the rectangle that I want to look at its color information, and then I'm double clicking on its fill to see 178, 114, 120. So 178, 114, 120. 178, 114, 120. Where did my thing go? Those tabs. There we go. So I want to change my background to, oh Lord, I've forgotten already.
178.
178, 114, 120. 178, 114, 120. Great. And then, boop, I've got my background. Now there's a problem here. As we can see, it fills my entire, we also didn't change the size. So in order to get it to fit on our screen, we need to change the canvas size. I was getting ahead of myself here. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to change it back to 100. And I'm going to change create canvas. To get it to fit easily on our screen, I'm going to make it 500 by 500 rather than scale to our window. Boop. And now we can see that I have, and I'm going to zoom back out so it fits. We can see that I have a canvas now, but its background bleeds into the background of the web page itself. And then if I change here the background color to the color I wanted, we'll see a similar thing happens. It changes not just the background of the canvas onto which I'm trying to draw, but it changes the background of the web page to match it, which is not really what I want, because now it makes it really hard to see where my drawing is and where the web page is. So I'm going to keep that background as 100 and instead draw the first thing I'm going to draw in my sequence is a rectangle the size of my canvas with no stroke that has that color information. So, no stroke. I know I don't want it to have a stroke. And how do I make it not have a stroke? I have no idea. I've never done this before. So I'm going to type I'm going to just type stroke. Boop. And I see a bunch of strokes, but no stroke. So how do I find no stroke? No stroke P5. I'm just going to Google it. Hey, no stroke P5. It is there in the reference. I just didn't know how to type it right. So, no stroke. There we go. And I look at the camel case, lowercase n, capital S, and that's how I call the function. And then it makes no stroke happen. Cool. So I'm going to type no stroke. And I'm going to delete this stroke. Oh, no, because I'm doing another rectangle. No stroke. And then I need to make a new fill, which had this color information. And then I need to make a rectangle. How do I make a rectangle? I'm just going to Google rectangle P5. Cool, rectangle P5. So it's RECT, and then the parentheses. And then I look down and I see that it's X, Y, W, H, width and height. And then it gives me the options of doing these curved corners, but I'm going to ignore that because it's my background. I don't want it to have curved corners. So, rectangle, X, I want to start at the top left. The top left of my canvas is 0, 0. So, 0, 0. And then my canvas size is 500 by 500. I want it to take up the entire canvas, so the width and height are 500 pixels and 500 pixels. Cool. So now, and then I might use a comment here. This is a great place to use a comment. If I do 2 slashes and just type background color, that will clue me in when I read this as the human being that I am a week from now and forget how I did all this. That'll clue me in that, oh, that's how I made that background color. And I might even call it salmon background color to just clue me into what these numbers mean. So poop. There, now I have a salmon background color that just fills up the size of my canvas. Great. Cool. The next thing I want to do, I got these rectangles. What's the next thing down? These 2 rectangles. And if I click one, I can go to Window, Info. And then that shows me 185 pixels and 249 pixels. 185, 249 with a width of 100 and a height of 600. That's how I can recreate this image on my canvas. Now remember that I'm working in a 1000 by 1000 pixel space here, so I'm going to need to have all those numbers. So 185, 249, 100, 600. Now I'm going to show you a trick. You don't even have to have those numbers yourself. You can have the computer do it for you. So I'm going to draw another rectangle. Oh, rect, doop doop. And I need X, Y with height. So from here, it was 185, 249. And it was 100, 600. So right now, 600 is more than my 500. It might not even, it will draw off the screen. But you can really easily have the computer have everything. So just divide it by 2. The computer is a giant calculator. I can do it for you. You don't even need to think about it. So that should draw a rectangle. I can't see it. Why not? Oh, because these ellipses are drawn on top of it afterwards. So I'm just going to get rid of those. Boom. Still can't see it. Why not? Well, because it's inheriting the fill and no stroke, so it's just bleeding into my rectangle before. Alt-Tab, there we go. So I need to grab this guy's color information, which is 255, 250, 89. And create a new fill. 255, 250, 89? Yeah. 250, 89. And now, boop, I have a guy or a lady. That's right where I thought it was. Yeah, that looks great. I love that. Awesome. Now let's draw the other rectangle. The other rectangle's color information and spatial information, 693, 249, 693, 249. And then it was also 100 by 600, which again I have all of that just halved here, X, Y, W, H. And then its color information, doop doop, was 112, 173, 204. 112, 173, 204. Great. Now when I hit play, boom! Amazing! So.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, what's up?
Why is it that the X numbers are so different when they're supposedly the same size because you dragged it over and made the same shape?
You'll notice that the width and height numbers are exactly the same. The
Yeah.
WH, because it's the same width and the same height.
Because it's a different
And then I
part
moved
of the
it
X.
to the
I
X.
got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
I moved it 500 in the one canvas, 500 over, so like
Okay.
half 500. It moves over 250 or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I've got two more shapes to draw. The next thing I need to draw is this triangle, this red triangle. How do I even draw a triangle? So, I have no idea how to draw a triangle. I'll have to look it up. Triangle, P5. Cool, just a triangle function. Triangle, parentheses. And what are its arguments? x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. Any 3 points make a triangle, right? So that's how I make a triangle in this. The first thing I'm going to have to do is create a new thing. And I'm going to comment each of these real quick. I'm going to take a second and just organize my code a bit. Another comment, left person, left yellow person. Another comment, right baby blue person.
Do you always leave a space between each?
The spaces and enters don't matter. So generally speaking, anything that's inside a function, this is all inside the set of instructions and must go between this curly bracket and this curly bracket to be read as inside of the draw function. So anything inside that function is usually indented one space. And then beyond that, whatever you can do to keep your own work sane for you. Some people code really messy, some people code really cleanly. I'm try to be one, and I'm always the other. So here, I'm going to do left heart. And then I'm going to copy and paste this, just because I know I'm going to need a fill function and a shape function. I'm going to paste that, call it right heart. And so my left heart, I know I want that to be black, 0. And I could put 0, 0, 0. I could have 0 for red, green, blue channels. But that's the same thing effectively as just having 1 0.
And And if you want white, then it would be 255 all the way across.
You could do that, or just write 255 once,
Okay.
because white is white, whether it's made out of 3 channels or 1. Either one would work. It would read either one. And then my right heart. What color is my right heart? Oh, my right heart was black. So my left heart is 255, 37, 57. My right heart was black. My left heart was a triangle, and my right heart was an ellipse. So I'm just going to the bare bones functions here. Triangle, ellipse. Cool. Now this might take some guesswork. I'm going to start with the easy one and do the ellipse. So the ellipse is width and height of 111, and then 688, 304. And just to make sure that I understand how to make an ellipse, I'm going to create a new tab and do ellipse P5. I'm pretty sure it's XYWH, but I'm just going to make sure. Yep, XYWH, XY width and height. I'm going to go back here. Ellipse. So it was 688, 304. 688, 304, 111, 111. And again, I need to divide all of these by 2. So I'm just putting a divided by 2, divided by 2, divided by 2. And then my triangle is going to be more complicated. Let's see what information it gives us. X and Y. So I'm going to start with those, but that's probably drawing from up here, and I want it to be from here. So I might have some guesswork to do on that triangle, because it takes a different kind of information. This does give me an X, Y, W, H, but that is not the information that is in my processing function. So I might need to do some guesswork. I know I want it to be on the same plane, the same y-axis as my heart. So my y is 304 divided by 2. So 304 divided by 2. I know I want it to be about as big as my heart, my other heart. So I know that it's going to span 111 pixels divided by 2. Which here, just for my own sanity, I'm going to cut in half and call it 60. Or let's call it 55. 55 pixels. So I know that my x1, I'll just type these out so we know what I'm replacing. x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. Cool. There we go. So I've replaced my x2 to be about the same height as my other heart. My x1, I know that I want that on the x here. I know that I want it to be slightly off the person here, to the left. So my person starts at, my left yellow person starts at 185 divided by 2. So let's do 185 divided by 2 minus 10. So 10 pixels minus the same value. My x2, I want to be maybe slightly off the right side of the person. Or let's go with this number, 55 pixels plus that. So it would be the same number, 185 divided by 2, plus 45, since 55 minus 10 is 45. And this math is getting complicated. There are easier ways to do this, but not without teaching you guys more than I think you want to know at this point. But we can go into that when numbers like this pop up more frequently. It's y2. I'm going to leave that the same value. And then I need a number that's below those two. So I want it to be back in the middle, back on this. Oh, I didn't do the plus 45. Plus 45. So I want it to be between the number minus 10, the number plus 45. So let's do the number plus 25. And let's do the number, the y needs to be below both of those. So I'm going to take my former y number, and I'm going to add 50 to it, plus 50. And let's see what I get. There we go. That's pretty darn close. My ellipsis is drawing way higher than I wanted to. My heart is drawing a little bit higher than I wanted to. But we can then add pixels to those numbers to shimmy it into place. Just add plus 10, plus 20 until it looks the way you want it to look. And then move it around. And that's because the anchor point coordinate system is different between where Illustrator draws it and where processing draws it. So that's the lecture part of this class. At the end of class, I will demonstrate some basic interactivity or basic animation we can add to this, which might be interesting to do for some of you folks. I want you at least to know how to do it. We have the rest of this class period, which how far are we through? We've got 1 hour left in this class period for me to help you hands-on get your Illustrator file converted over. Next class, I will be in the building, but it will be largely an open lab that I'll just be checking into. And you will have all of that class period to finesse it. And I'll be checking in to make sure no one gets stuck. I will, by the end of the day, have an assignment for you to submit your Illustrator file and then I want you guys to submit your sketch to my processing class, which I'll demonstrate how to do right now. The critique for this will be a little different. I want everybody to look at everyone's sketch and answer certain questions about it. So I'll be giving you those questions as part of the assignment. And we won't be spending time in class critiquing these. That sound good to everyone? Anyone absolutely hate this or feel like this is a nightmare? Sort of? Any more so than anything else? Don't feel a lot of pressure here. Even if you just get 3 basic shapes, you're going to be just fine. This is not about creating art necessarily. This is about understanding more technically how images are created digitally and hoping to carry that information into where we start doing our web work. So yeah, just to demonstrate the class business. So back up here, all of our information is in this double zeros. So if you click there, stay on page because I've not saved. This happened in my other class. Definitely hit the big red save button before you go anywhere else. I'm just going to call this Gangwish example. Please do put your last name and then anything you want. Description. Art, and this doesn't really matter to me, but Art 106 example. If you had interaction, you could give the person using this a clue. Like you could say, drag your mouse around. For the first example, you might say, drag your mouse around the screen and it will create small circles. We all saw that happen. Tags, license, who can use it. You can't change any of this stuff unless you are a paid member, and everyone can see it because we aren't paid members. So I'm going to submit. Saving. Now saves that to my sketch library. If I go over to my sketches, I'll see it there. Gangwish example. Great. Actually, I like this composition a lot more than the one I did in Illustrator more purposefully. So then I'm going to go to classes, Art 106, Geometric Abstraction. And I'm going to all students. I see a bunch of students. That's great. I'm going to go down here to Add Sketch. And I'm going to boop my abstract composition. And there it is for you all to look at and reference. Whenever you go to my class, You can pull that up really easily. And by clicking here, you can look at the source code, and by clicking here, you can see the result. Yeah. So hopefully that's useful for you folks. If you want to do something and can't figure it out, please come grab me. Just shout out my name and try to play and not stick too carefully to any given conceit. Feel very welcome to dramatically alter or play around with the shapes that you've created so far. Thank you very much for your time.